What are the best harmless pranks you can pull? Another good one that works on the same premise is to make a new folder on the desktop, name it something embarrassing, then print screen and set that as their background. They'll spend ages trying to figure out how to delete this random porn folder that appeared on their desktop, not realizing it's part of the background. Sometimes I buy people's stupid listings on my country's version of eBay and get it sent to my friends' houses. The last thing I bought was some guy's very well-worn, used underwear, and I got it sent to my friend's boyfriend. Best $5 I ever spent. I find it twice as funny thinking about how this dude selling his dirty used underwear now thinks there's a real market for it. Reminds me of the time someone put a hot dog in my purse at a party, and I just realized this sounds really NSFW, so let me rephrase. Someone put a frankfurter in my handbag. That's not much better. Oh well, I still laugh about that. The guy who did it eventually fessed up, though. Would have been funnier if I never found out. When I was at university, two girls got into an escalatingly huge competition about how to annoy each other. They were actually friends, but they had some sort of weird anarchic spirit in them that just led to general carnage. It concluded when one of them went into the other's room and turned literally everything in it upside down. Then it turned out that the other had been collecting newspapers for about 6 months for the specific purpose of also going into their rival's room and filling it several feet deep with scrunched up pages, which she then did. At that point the university was just like, okay, that's enough now, and ordered them to stop. I mean, I'd call it the draw. Hilarious when the opposite happens. I was heading to a day festival with some friends and we were pre-drinking in my apartment. One girl was notoriously late, so I rang her to see when she'd get here. She lived over 130 kilometers away. College friend, in the middle of nowhere on a little farm. When she answered the phone, she was moving cows from one field to the next and thought the gig was the next day. She managed to get herself together and get to the festival a few hours late. We met her there. That reminded me, I did something similar to my friend 10 years ago. I saw an offer for free personalized business cards and just have to pay postage. But a great idea, and took a super zoomed up picture of my face and photoshopped it onto a rainbow background and ordered a stack of business cards with them on it. Then I hid them all over his room in every weird place possible. They were the perfect size, under his keyboard, in his jean pockets, etc. etc. He managed to find all of them over time, or so we thought. 6 years after that I get a random text from him with a photo of one of the cards and a message saying, "I'm dying. I just found this under some books in my drawer." In high school, I once fed about $5 worth of pennies through the upper slots of a friend's locker before first period. The bell rang. We all went to our lockers. He opened up his, and what seemed like a 3-minute rain of pennies cascaded down onto the floor. The entire hallway froze and it was all you could hear, like I say, for 2 or 3 minutes. It was an excellent, cheap joke that didn't hurt anybody. Very embarrassing though. Well worth it. We're lucky enough to have the double sink situation in our bathroom, so I get my side and my so has theirs. I have significantly more on my side. One day I left one of my magic skin concoctions in the middle of the counter and I noticed he moved it to his side, even though it was clearly mine. Tried it the next day and he did it again. So of course I decide to see how far I can take this. Every day I would take one of my items and put it closer to his side, and every day he would pull it all the way to his side to tidy up. I eventually got all my items on his side, including the coup de grace ... the extra large hairspray bottle. But then he caught me in the bathroom giggling and looking at all my stuff on his side, and he was like, "What is all this doing here?" It was oddly satisfying while it lasted. Filling a room / backpack / whatever with a lot of the same object, usually something small and weird. For example, I read a story of students who did their senior prank to their principal by having everyone shake his hand and hand him a small plastic camel. So by the time they were done, the guy just had a lot of plastic camels. Similarly, I've also read a story of someone filling a room with a lot of rubber ducks. I've done something like the rubber duck one at my office, but not filling up a whole room. It was more just leaving rubber duckies on random people's desks at work. I worked swing shift at a call center, so when I first got, around 2 in the afternoon, and the office would be full, but by time I left there would just be a few people in who worked nights. So before I left I'd walk by a random desk and leave a small rubber ducky on it. Eventually people got to talking about the random rubber duckies showing up. Never did get caught. But I'm sure some suspect me because after I left for a deployment through the reserves the rubber duckies stopped appearing. Lol. I need to start doing that again. My family has a portrait of an ancestor of ours that was painted by a fairly famous painter hanging up in their dining room, so I found an electronic copy of the painting online and did some quick photoshopping to switch his face with my own. I got the edited painting printed at Staples and replaced the original one night. Then I just sat back and waited till someone noticed. Smile. I love it. At university one year one shared an on-campus apartment with 3 of my friends. One was in an extracurricular group and there was a guy in the group that she had a huge crush on. He happened to have his picture in the school paper at one point, so my other friend, Rumi, and I collected a ton of newspapers and put his photo in every picture frame we had in that apartment. A large amount. She noticed them after maybe a week if I recall correctly, and we had a good laugh. We removed them all once she noticed because she was hosting an event for the group at our apartment. Except later that night when they all went home we noticed we missed one. We're very sure no one else noticed, but there's no way to be 100%. When I was in high school my buddy did something like this. His house had small portraits of every family member on one wall. They were in separate frames. Once a month he replaced one photo with a picture of a famous, infamous dictator, fascist. He first replaced himself with Stalin, then came Kim Jong-un and eventually Hitler. He was able to replace every photo. It took months for his mother to notice. I don't know about harmless, but when I was young we stayed at a friend's house and swapped all the pots and pans in the kitchen and the towels in the linen closest. We proceeded to deny doing it. A few weeks later we swapped the canned goods in the kitchen with the dish cabinet. Again we denied doing it. A week after that we swapped the pots and pan with the dishes. Harmless. Until his mom went to a doctor thinking she was getting dementia. So your mileage may vary. I don't have a specific prank, but rather a rule for all pranks. It's only a prank if both parties are laughing afterward. For example, if someone asks you to take their photo, start taking photos immediately and make sure you get some good shots. Then when it's time for the posed shot, take one with everyone's head cut off. They will initially be startled, but then you can show the 20 other candid photos and all will be well. In my high school the janitors would wipe the blackboard with very wet towels at the end of the day. My class decided to pull a prank on a very timid teacher by dragging our hands and writing cryptic messages on the board before it dries, so that it'll disappear until the teacher wiped off the words the next day. I'll never forget her panicking face. Edit /u/mercent_pro/u/walshy231231. I don't know the exact mechanism from the whole thing, but I think when you touch the blackboard before it dries it leaves the area uneven with a bit of grease from your skin. When the whole thing dries it is not very noticeable cause your skin doesn't produce extreme amount of oil. The chalk eraser drags over the surface and normally it will spread the dust all over, but now it will skip over the handprints you left before. I play Minecraft, and my sister and I pulled a great harmless prank on my dad in our family realm. We took all his items out of his chests and placed a bunch of chests floating above his house, just high enough that he couldn't reach them by jumping. Then we filled each chest with exactly one item in each inventory slot. No stacking at all. We placed blocks above each of the chests so that he couldn't just build up and open them. We couldn't contain our laughter when he logged on and saw it. It took around an hour, but it was so worth it. A gaming buddy of mine took note of where I was when I logged off, built a house around the area and filled it with chickens. It slightly backfired when I logged back on and couldn't move. I also couldn't hear anything over the overwhelming cacophony of cluck 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 cluck. My friends and I had a server we'd play on, and it was impossible to get anything done because every time you'd turn around, someone would completely fill your house with dirt, or one friend would damage my house and replace the broken blocks with random shit. I'd have a log cabin, but the next day one wall would be made of watermelon. A supervisor and I would go back and forth with pranks on each other. You never knew when it would happen, but you always knew who it was. Well, one night, I came in with some zip ties and a car horn that I had prepped earlier, wired up, 12V plus and ground, to a trailer plug. I zip-tied the horn inside the front wheel well and ran the wires back neatly, and plugged it into his trailer plug on his truck. Morning comes, end of his shift. He puts his foot on the brake to start up his truck and this horn is blowing loudly. Pops the hood, can't figure it out, and he's scrambling to get out of there as he's already late to pick his wife up from her work. Drives clear across town in morning rush hour. And every time he hits the brakes, this horn is going off. Finally picks her up, tells her he's too tired to drive the 45 minutes back across town to pick their daughter up from her parents' house. By the time they arrive, she's so livid and pissed off at the situation, that finally he tells her to pull into his buddy's mechanic shop. This mechanic crawls all under his truck, clipping my zip ties from the front to the back, unplugs it, and hands him the whole thing, laughing his ass off. The mechanic got a good laugh. As for my supervisor, not so much. Get a cheap wireless mouse and plug the dongle into a rear USB port of a coworker's computer. Give the mouse an occasional jiggle when you're bored and need some amusement. For even more fun, flick the mouse gently whenever they try to click an icon. Make sure to only do it sporadically. Let them go weeks thinking the problem is fixed before starting up all over again. Or, if your desks are together and face each other, you can plug in a wired mouse, put the mouse on the floor, and nudge it with your foot for the same effect. Well, in my old job I had an office mate, who sat in the cubicle next to me, who kept all their files on their desktop, like literally every inch of their desktop was files. She was a really nice person, just bad with using folders I guess. So one time when she was AFK, I screenshot her desktop, then proceed to put all her files in a little folder and hide it away. I then make the screenshot her wallpaper so it looks like her regular desktop. Cue her coming back to her desk, clicking frantically at all her files, wondering why nothing would open. I let this go on for a few more panicked seconds before I walk over, chuckling and telling her what I did. Smile. Put googly eyes on everything. Everyone gets a good laugh. Entirely harmless. Seriously, though, a lot of the pranks people are posting can be a lot more harmful than you think, especially if you're not super certain how the person will react. Messing up someone's workstation is hilarious when prank warring between friends who you're certain are okay with it. But I've seen that sort of thing go horribly wrong when someone's rushing to get on a call for an important emergency meeting, or they're just really stressed out about something the pranker didn't know about. Truly good harmless pranks give everyone a good laugh without actually inconveniencing anyone or stressing them out. I had a friend who, in elementary school, would duplicate that screen at the end of PowerPoints. You know, the black one that says slideshow ended. Click to exit, yeah, that one. She'd meticulously get the font and size and location just right and add an extra 10 or so slides. So when the teacher went through the slides in her presentation to the class, and then said teacher tried to click to exit, it did not exit. She thought it was broken, and my friend and I just about died laughing. I read this off a Tumblr post. If I remember correctly, someone was doing improv and was hit with, "Hey, did you hear they're gonna stop making socks?" And it devastated up because that's the most ridiculously hilarious scenario ever. I tried it recently and it worked hilariously well, but also the first thing anyone said was because of COVID, which is sorta morbid, but I was still cry laughing. Around here you can go to stores and get their old bread. The amount of waste is ridiculous. You gotta sweet talk them, but it worked. We then got dozens of loaves and filled a buddy's car full of bread at school. Like took them out of the bags and stuffed his car full of bread. My favorite prank to date. This is also a bit of parking lot justice, and you just need a roll of duct tape. If you see someone park their car in a handicap spot without a placard or sloppily parked across multiple parking spots, slap a length of duct tape across their door handle. If you want, write a note on it with permanent marker asking them to park better. Post note: be sure to wipe off your fingerprints in case you have an overzealous police force. Prank 1. Move the stuff of your friend or however you live with around just a little. Start small, like moving the cereal over just a little bit, and then go up more. So if it takes them a week to notice, move the cereal across the whole counter and see how long you can go without getting caught. Prank 2. This one is not nearly as cool, but it's decently funny. Hide a sticky note somewhere in your friend's room with the date of the sticky note on it. The sticky note should say something along the lines of, "This sticky note has been here since insert date and it took you _days to find it." If this is someone who doesn't clean their room often, it can take them months to find the sticky note. It makes them feel either proud because they found it quick, or they laugh at themselves for taking so long to find it. A friend and coworker went on vacation but left his toolbox unlocked. Dun dun da. I went and bought a bag of 200 little plastic spiders, hid them all throughout his toolbox. He finally found the last one inside his welding gloves months later. He thought it was hilarious. He wasn't at all afraid of spiders. In fact, he kinda obsessed over them. He even had pet tarantulas at home. I wouldn't suggest doing it to someone who was afraid of spiders though. Disclaimer: this only works for children and gullible people. I tell the victims that I have a magic trick, that I can magically squeeze an egg through the crack a door makes, like in between the hinges. I ask them to put their fingers through the crack. Just the index and thumb would do. Then I carefully hand them the egg. I shout some phone's magic words and then I tell them to try to pull it through. It doesn't work. Oh shoot, I forgot the rest of the magic trick. Can you wait here real quick while I go figure it out? Thanks, bye. Leave them there however long until they figure it out. Where I work, they have total washlets, a seat warmer, bidet, on all the toilets. The controllers for the washlets used to be on the walls of the stalls. An enterprising prankster, rumored to be Conan O'Brien when he visited, switched the controllers between two stalls. Before long, a coworker was sitting in a stall when his neighbor pushed the spray button. Coworker was mid-shit when he heard the toilet seat booting up its spray nozzle. There was nothing he could do to stop it. Here come the warm jets. After the ordeal ended, he filed a ticket with facilities that said something like, "Please make it so this never happens again." The Toto seats now have the controls built into the seat. There's a great thing you can do I learned as a kid. You put your finger inside someone's belt loop. Make a hook with your finger so the loop is tight against your fingertip. With your finger pointed back at yourself, you pull tight and let the loop pop down into the crook of your finger hook. The sudden pop of the belt loop coming off your fingertip feels to the other person like you have just popped off their belt loop, but you haven't. My wife and her sisters will steal things from each other's houses when they visit. Sometimes they will hint at what it is and sometimes they'll just ask, "Notice anything missing?" It's never anything expensive or important, usually just a decorative item. We started doing white elephant gift exchanges at Christmas a while back, and a few of the stolen items have shown up as gifts. Someone will open a box and you'll hear a sister yell, "Hey, that's mine." A more universally harmless prank would be to leave random stuff at people's houses. On Fridays I usually hang out with my boyfriend after work. He gets off at random hours, so I just happened to get lucky and he was on his way home when I was coming back from dinner with my parents. We live separately because we're saving for our own place sometime next year, so I texted his mom to see if she'd let me in so I could scare him. She loves torturing him, so of course she was down to do it. I texted him to let him know I was feeling sick after dinner and I probably wouldn't want to hang out. Then I went to his place and hid in his closet. He leaves his location on Snapchat, so I could see that he was just across the street getting fast food for dinner. It took like 10 minutes of me hiding on the floor of his closet before I could hear him come upstairs. He had his back turned to me and put his bag of McDonald's on the bed. The lights were still off and everything. I asked, Hey babe, can I have a French fry? He screamed and choked on his Coke. Maybe it wasn't totally harmless, but he was fine after he coughed for a few minutes. Apparently there's nothing more terrifying than hearing your girlfriend ask for a French fry from the darkness of your closet after a long day at work. Also, yes, I did eventually steal myself a French fry. It was delicious.